Hey there everybody, and welcome back. Today's going to be a very quick video. So basically this is a response or follow-up to my last video of the Z Fold 4. Now that I've had this for a couple of months since I got it when the pre-order was initially out, so I've had it for closing in on 5 months now. Just wanted to walk you through some of my thoughts and just kind of tell you whether or not I think it's something that you should look into. So before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the channel for new content. Alright, so if you are looking for technical specs or more of a detailed rundown, check out the link in the description to the video that I did that has a more detailed review. But basically, I'm just going to be scrolling through the settings and walking through some of my thoughts on this device. Now, I upgraded from a Galaxy S20, so as far as performance is concerned, it's about as snappy, if not faster, than the S20 was, but that was already a pretty quick phone with pretty impressive specs to begin with. So looking at the Z Fold 4, my first thought is the complaints. And that's just because that's what most people typically review when they think of a phone, primarily of this size. So my biggest complaint for this device is the actual inability to find cases and really just decent accessories for it. And that's not an actual hit on the device itself, but rather just the fact that finding cases like this one, for example, I had to go through quite a few. I'll actually put a link in the description going over some of the cases that I purchased and really why it was so difficult to find one that worked well for this device. Additionally, as someone who really likes to have screen protectors on their devices, I found that it's almost impossible to find a good screen protector for the inside screen. Now you may think that the screen's going to be closed or when it's open you're using it, but I would have liked to have some kind of a film protector. Most of the ones that I found on Amazon were so precise that if you were off even half of a millimeter, they would start bubbling up around the corners. And even if you applied it almost perfectly, for some reason when the device closed, it's almost like it stretched the protector and it would still have bubbles. And obviously you can't have tempered glass on the inside since it is folding. So I've had to go without a screen protector. I haven't had any issues so far, but from the reviews I've seen online, the inside screen is a little bit more plasticky, which brings me to my next complaint. So looking at the device, ignoring any fingerprints, I'll wipe it off the best that I can really quickly. So one of the things that I've noticed, this actual center divider line or the fold that most people have questions about, you really don't notice if you're looking straight at the device. So if you're looking at it when the device and the screen is off, it's very apparent. However, when you're doing random actions on the device, so for example, if I log in and we're scrolling through, if you're looking directly at it, it's almost invisible. However, if you put it at a slight angle, that fold is much more visible, but I was surprised at how quickly I got over that. However, one of the concerns that I have with this screen is it almost reminds me of if you were to look at drywall when it's dark. So if you put kind of like a flashlight against drywall and you look at it with the light off, then you'll start to see these weird waves and patterns. And the best way to describe it with this, which I may not be able to capture it with the camera angle, but it doesn't feel like this is just this solid sheet. It feels like it has more of this plasticky give to it, which is concerning when you read about reports from past Z Fold phones where the inside screen just stops working, or when the people are folding it, it snaps down the middle. It just makes me question the integrity of the device itself, and that is a little bit of a concern, which is why I waited to get into the folding phone space until I feel like they had kind of worked out some of those issues. So far, that's not a huge concern, but that does bring me to my third and essentially final complaint of the device. I'm not going to be one to complain about the width, although it is a very thick phone, because that's one of the things to expect. You read the thickness and the specs on the website when you see that you're actually going to get a device like this. So it's not like it's a surprise that it's a very thick phone. It's a folding device, it's to be expected. So my final complaint, and I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, I'm going to put this next to my actual earphones and open and close it a couple of times and see if you can hear it. So I don't know if you can capture it very well, but when it's folding, it almost sounds like, I don't know how to describe it, saran wrap or kind of like this weird plasticky feel. Like if you were to get some plastic and kind of crumple it in your hands, it sounds like that when you're opening and closing the device, which again is not a huge deal. It just, the device itself, when it's closed and you don't have a case on it, it feels so premium and so solid. And Samsung makes such high quality phones, but everything related to the inside screen just makes me a little bit concerned that this is going to last a full, let's just say, 3 to 4 years. It makes me feel like after about 1.5 to 2 years, I should probably sell this and upgrade just in case something goes wrong, which from a consumer perspective just isn't great. Now, when it comes to the outside screen, it works very, very well. One thing I do want to make a note of, so I'm going to go to some websites really quickly and show just some odd stuff that I've noticed. Some websites, for example, eBay, they don't seem to load as well as they could on this outside screen. So it seems like there's some scrolling that you can do left to right, whereas there's no zooming out you can do. I'm out as far as I can be, but there's this room to scroll, and on some pages there's barely a little bit, which can be irritating from a user's perspective, especially when you consider the fact that when it's open, there's a little bit of scroll room as well, but most of the time you expect the page, for example, when I'm zoomed out all the way, I can't scroll to the left or the right. So some websites and some apps don't work very well on the outside screen. It almost seems like the device is meant to be used like this. And when you've used a screen of that size, using something this small can be kind of a pain. So I've spent a little bit of time talking about the negatives, but now I want to get into the positives. So if you're coming from an S20, maybe an S21, S22, etc., getting a device like this is something I would highly recommend. It may sound odd because I've spent some time talking about the negatives, but just day-to-day usage, this is such a fast device. It's so snappy when we're doing something like basic day-to-day tasks like the internet, and then you have the ability, for example, if you're wanting to use multiple apps at the same time. So for example, we have eBay pulled up right now. If we wanted to do something like, let's just say we wanted to use the phone, we can drag and drop to the different areas of the screen to multitask very, very quickly. So for example, I now have the phone app up on this side, and then on this screen, I have the Google Chrome page. So we have the ability to basically you can resize and do what you need to, and then you can just click the home screen and open up your windows to get back to where you need to. So it's a really, really cool device, really, really snappy. I've played some different games on this device and they play incredibly smoothly. You can use devices, for example, I have a video, which I'll link in the description, where I've hooked up my Xbox controller to this, and you can play games using that. And it kind of is almost like playing on a very, very small TV, or obviously a very, very large phone. So it's very, very quick. I haven't noticed in the time that I've had it the slowness that I've seen from some other phones. For example, my S20 over time started to slow down, which people kind of expect. But with this device, I haven't had that issue so far. So I don't love the fact that you can't put expandable memory in, but because the base model memory is so high, it hasn't been a problem for me. The camera itself is phenomenal. I love the fact that when you jump into the camera menu, you have the ability to use the full screen like this. You have the ability to use different apps when it's folded, so you can do things like this and use the half screen. So if you wanted to point it and shoot to, for example, take pictures of a group. And then when it's back to full screen mode, you can see the full-size camera, zoom in, zoom out. It's just a very, very unique device. So the day-to-day use, I feel like if you're going from any older Galaxy phone or really just any older phone, you're going to notice a massive improvement in speed and ability and just ease of use. But for those of you that are interested and kind of curious if you should go into a folding phone, I think the biggest concern most people have is this hinge right here, the overall quality and construction. And what I want to go ahead and say here is I have had this phone for about 5 months. I fold it and unfold it multiple times a day. I'm a relatively heavy user, and I would say at the very least I get a full day's worth of battery, but on days where I don't use it that much, I can get almost 2 full days of use out of the battery itself, including using the inside screen and outside. And on top of that, The day-to-day use for everything else, as far as camera functionality and everything else, is incredible. And it's a very, very quick phone. So if you're questioning whether or not something like the Fold right here is going to get annoying, or whether or not it's going to be a durable phone, I don't think it's going to survive a ton of heavy drops. But if you treat the phone well, I think that this is definitely a phone that you should consider upgrading to, especially if you have the ability to manage something in this price range. Again, it is a pricier phone. So as far as durability is concerned, I would definitely put it on the lower end of the spectrum. Now, there are videos from people like Jerry Rig Everything where you can see them actually doing the breakdown. It's still a sturdy phone. But when it comes to the inside screen, I very much question if you were to close it with something small in here, like a piece of sand or just something absentmindedly, you snap it shut, it could definitely cause some damage. But as far as getting 5 months of use out of it, the hinge still feels very, very sturdy. It doesn't feel exactly the same as it did on day one, but it doesn't feel like it's loose in any way. For example, you can see that I can kind of shake the phone to get it to open a little bit, but as far as just leaning it, it won't just flop open. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment box below, and I'll see you all in the next video.